When I was brutally murdered, my husband was busy making soup for his childhood sweetheart. In my final moments, I desperately called him, only to have him hang up on me. Get lost, stop playing tricks, and don't tell me you're dying this time. If you are, die far away and don't dirty my sight. That night, he was called back to the detective squad to solve a gruesome dismemberment case. No case had ever taken him more than 3 days to crack, but 7 days passed, and he still hadn't realized that the dismembered victim was his most despised wife. The killer had dismembered me, packed me into 3 bags, and tossed me into a dumpster next to the police station. My body was painstakingly reassembled by the coroner overnight, missing only the left leg. The coroner's eyes showed pity. Before I died, I had been doused with high-concentration sulfuric acid, leaving no intact piece of flesh. It was too cruel. The young officers, new to the force, couldn't help but run outside to retch. Even my husband, Cole, couldn't help but frown. He was the most outstanding captain of the detective squad, never taking more than 3 days to solve a case. The coroner handed over the compiled report. The victim, a female, aged 23 or 24, died from pain, her head repeatedly struck with a blunt object, skull shattered, and doused with high-concentration sulfuric acid before death. There was also an abdominal wound. She died in excruciating pain. Officer Leo cursed under his breath. Bastard, daring to dump a body right at the police station's doorstep. This is a blatant provocation. Cole glanced at the incomplete body on the autopsy table, his tone tinged with regret. Not even 25, still so young. Yes, I was only 24, still so young, with less than a third of my life lived. Cole's gloved hand brushed over my empty left leg. Her left leg. I was anxious. Would he notice this clue? My left leg had a bone deformity from an injury I got saving Cole years ago. Since then, I always walked with a limp. The coroner shook his head. Couldn't find the victim's left leg. Just then, an officer walked in with a plastic bag. This should be the victim's left leg. Just found it in the dumpster under Captain's apartment. The coroner attached my left leg, clearly showing the asymmetry between my legs. The left leg's bone deformed at an angle. The coroner exclaimed, "It's a clue. The victim had a previous leg injury affecting her walk." Officer Leo looked at Cole with a strange expression. "It was found in the dumpster under your apartment, and the left leg was injured too. Maybe you should call your wife?" Cole's face turned grim. "It can't be her. She called me at dawn to vent, full of energy." I felt a pang of disappointment. He missed the clue again. I did call him at dawn, but I couldn't speak. By then, I was in too much pain to utter a word. Seeing Cole mention me with undisguised disdain, I felt relieved. When he finds out I'm dead, he might be quite happy. Officer Leo hesitated but finally spoke. "Captain, maybe you should go home and check. It's dinner time and your wife hasn't called. Plus, the crime scene is so close to your home. Normally, we'd interview nearby residents. Just now, the team checked your area and no one is missing, but no one answered at your place." For once, Cole didn't immediately refute. After a moment, he relaxed his brow and scoffed. "She's pulled this stunt before, pretending to disappear to make me worry, but she always comes back. Who knows where she's off to this time? She's a schemer. Don't be fooled by her usual demeanor." "Enough. Let's not discuss unrelated matters." His tone was firm. Seeing this, Officer Leo and the others held back their words and finally stopped mentioning me. I was anxious. But I'm the victim. If they don't mention me, how will they solve the case? I watched Cole struggle with the case, making no progress for days. All the missing persons in the area were checked, yet no clues pointed to me. Cole looked exhausted. Officer Leo brought me up again, and this time, Cole didn't refuse. He went home. He opened the door, seemingly having prepared himself for a while before calling my name. The room was empty, no one answered. He glanced disdainfully at the inner room. "Enough, I'll count to 3. If you don't come out, you'll never see me again." I wanted to respond, but he couldn't hear me. Impatiently, he shouted, "Fine, Rachel, you've got some nerve playing hard to get. Even if you die out there, I won't come back." After yelling, he headed straight for the door. I tried to stop him, to tell him I wasn't throwing a tantrum, but he walked right through me, his expression dark, eyes cold. I paused. Cole really hated me. Even when I wasn't home, he found it unbearable to be where I had been. Near the door, he suddenly stopped, his gaze falling on the voice recorder on the entryway table. I floated excitedly in front of him, urging him to open it. Fortunately, I had a habit. Cole didn't like reading my messages or listening to my voicemails, often ignoring me for days. Afraid he might come home and not find me, I always left a voice recorder by the door, explaining my whereabouts before going out, as long as Cole. Upon hearing it, he would surely know that I had been missing for a long time. Cole furrowed his brow, picked up the voice recorder, and after a moment, casually tossed it aside with a mocking smile. "Still have the mind to leave a recorder to lure me over, Rachel. When it comes to scheming, no one can beat you." I floated to the front of the sofa, trying to reach for the recorder that had fallen underneath. "No, I didn't. Please, Cole, just listen to it." Cole didn't turn back. He returned to the police station, where Leo and the others anxiously gathered around him. "How is it, Captain? Is your wife okay?" "Yeah, is she all right?" Cole clenched his fist, his tone dismissive. What could possibly happen to her? She still has the energy to go out and have fun. She even left a recorder for me, wanting me to find her. Enough. Just mentioning her makes me sick. Let's talk about the case. You mentioned the victim had an injury on the left leg. Check the nearby hospitals for any records of surgeries on the left leg in recent years. For several days, Cole was busy screening suspects. He rubbed his temples and set the files aside when a young officer called him outside. Luna had come to see him. Cole led her into his private lounge. I watched as Luna walked in familiarly and sat on the sofa, feeling a pang of disorientation. I had never been here. Every time I brought Cole food, he wouldn't even let me into the station, let alone his private space. Yet Luna easily reached a place I never could. She affectionately pulled Cole to sit beside her, gently massaging his temples. "You haven't come to see me lately. Do you find me a burden?" Cole shook his head. "How could I? I promised to take care of you for a lifetime. I won't go back on my word. It's just that this case is a bit tricky." Ignoring the taboo, Cole erased the case details and discussed them with Luna. Luna gasped, trembling as she hugged him from behind. "It's terrifying. How can someone be like this? Have they caught him yet? What if he targets me?" Luna's body pressed closely against his, as if they were made for each other. Cole's body stiffened for a moment, his hand raised. Cole had a professional habit. Every time I hugged him, he would push me away forcefully, sternly telling me not to touch him from behind. Just when I thought he would push Luna away, he simply placed his hand on her shoulder, gently patting it to comfort her. It turned out he wasn't just professionally cautious. He made exceptions for someone else. "I will never let anyone harm you. If there's ever danger, call me directly. No matter what I'm doing, I'll come right away, okay?" Luna nodded obediently, and for a moment the atmosphere was incredibly warm until Luna mentioned me. "I heard from Leo and the others that she hasn't brought you food for a while. Will she come today? If she sees me here, she'll definitely cause a scene. Maybe I should leave." Cole's expression visibly cooled. Luna continued softly. "As long as she's good to you, I don't mind being wronged. I'm used to it. It's just a few slaps. I don't want you to be unhappy, Cole." Seeing Luna's guilty look, Cole tenderly wrapped an arm around her shoulder. "I won't give her the chance to trouble you again. If she touches you, I'll divorce her." A glimmer of joy flashed in Luna's eyes, though she didn't show it. Divorce. I should have known. This marriage meant nothing to Cole, and as his wife, I was no different from an enemy. Fortunately, I'm dead now, and I won't stand in the way of him and Luna anymore. Suddenly, Leo's voice came from outside. "Captain, there's something urgent. We've got a lead." Cole immediately stood up, but even then he didn't forget to ensure Luna's safety. He called a young officer, repeatedly instructing him to make sure Luna got home safely. Leo looked grim, punching the wall in frustration. What we found in the sewer was a baby's body. It was already formed, not even 3 months old. The coroner said the victim had miscarried a child under 3 months. We thought it was from before, but it turns out it was because of. Cole staggered, his face turning pale. He seemed to realize something but then shook his head. "Impossible. That was just Rachel's trick to keep me." Leo looked up. "Captain, did you think of something?" Suddenly, the voice of the officer who went to the hospital to check the records came from outside, urgent and panicked. "Captain, your wife's records match the victim's left leg and pregnancy records." Cole stood frozen, forgetting to react. Leo took the file, but before he could open it, Cole, like a madman, rushed over and grabbed the file tightly. "My own wife, I know her. If she was pregnant, how could I not know? Don't joke about this. You all know what her dad is like. A woman from that family wouldn't die so easily." Leo didn't listen to him this time. He looked at Cole seriously. "Captain, this is a matter of life and death. It's not a joke. Besides, there are still many doubts about what happened back then. You should open the file and see if it's really your wife." Leo hadn't finished speaking when Cole roared, "Louis, are you questioning me? How could I not know my own wife? She even left me a voice recorder at home. There's no way it was her." He was losing control. Leo could only sigh and remain silent. Even though I was just a wandering soul, I could still feel a suffocating pain in my chest. Everyone except Cole believed there were doubts about what happened back then, but he never listened to my explanations. He only ever listened to Luna. My dad and Luna's father were business partners. They started a company together. During college, I met Luna through Lucas. At the time, Luna was busy dating the most popular guy on campus, while Cole constantly pestered her, driving her crazy. She said she had grown up with Cole and only saw him as an older brother. Cole, on the other hand, always treated Luna like a child, believing she shouldn't be in a relationship, even though she was already an adult by then. He still saw her through the lens of their childhood. Luna came to me singing Cole's praises. She hoped I would pursue him so that he would stop bothering her and she could enjoy her freedom. I fell for Cole at first sight and pursued him relentlessly. He eventually fell for me too, and we got married. On our wedding day, Cole kissed my forehead and promised to love and trust me forever, to always stand by my side. Everything seemed to be heading in a good direction, until my dad and Lucas's company ran into trouble. The company's cash flow broke down, and they couldn't pay their workers. The workers protested repeatedly. One particularly aggressive worker stormed into the office and killed Lucas. With his dying breath, Lucas accused my dad of secretly transferring assets and planning to flee the country, which he claimed caused the financial crisis. No one doubted the words of a dying man. The blame fell squarely on my dad. The workers rioted, gathering outside our home, throwing blood and dead rats at our door, shouting curses. I was terrified and hid inside, too afraid to go out. I called Cole for help, but his voice was filled with disdain. "Rachel, your dad killed Luna's father. Even meeting me was part of your scheme. How could you be so disgusting, so manipulative? Anything related to Lulu, you just have to take, don't you?" I tried desperately to explain. Yes, I had met him because of what Luna said, but my feelings for him were genuine. Cole cut me off harshly. "Enough. Don't try any more tricks. Let me tell you, I'll take care of Lulu for the rest of my life." I will never forget that night. My dad stroked my head and apologized, saying he couldn't stay with me any longer. He admitted he had misjudged Lucas, choosing the wrong partner to start a business. That day, he said, Lucas was the one planning to flee with the money. I confronted him, and the worker overheard our argument before killing him. I never thought Lucas would use his last breath to frame me. People always believe the words of the dying. Even if the person was a bad man, they say, a dying man speaks no lies. Rachel, I don't know how to prove my innocence, but I don't want to drag you down. Dad pushed me away and ran out of the house, heading for the rooftop. I chased after him, trying to stop him. I called Cole repeatedly, but he never answered. I watched helplessly as my dad jumped off the roof, like a kite with its string cut. I lost the last family member I had in the world. And my husband? At that moment, he was by Luna's side, comforting her to sleep. Afterward, when Cole learned of my dad's death, he merely sneered. What did he think that would solve? Does he think his death can pay off everything? The workers still need money to survive. Lucas's life and even the life of that killer worker, can he repay those? I tried every way I could to explain things to Cole, but he never listened. Rachel, you're disgusting. Your dad was like this, and so are you. Now you're trying to smear Lucas's name? That makes you even more repulsive. The ones who should have died are you and your family. Lulu is the one who suffered the most because of you. But Cole, have you ever thought about this? If my dad were really that kind of person, why didn't the police find any of the missing money in his accounts after his death? Well, it doesn't matter now. I'm dead. I won't bother you anymore. You can finally be with Luna without any worries. Leo sat quietly beside Cole, staring at the folder in his hands. The two of them were locked in a tense silence until Leo finally asked, Captain, have you ever considered this? What if the person who died was really your wife? What good does it do to obstruct our investigation and let the killer go free? Cole froze. His hand gripping the folder trembled violently, his knuckles turning white from the pressure. With shaky hands, he opened the folder. Inside were all my medical records. They showed that 6 months ago, I had surgery on my left leg. 3 months ago, I was diagnosed as pregnant. Cole's pupils dilated, and his entire body began to shake uncontrollably. His breathing grew rapid and uneven. Cole, do you remember? 6 months ago, there was an earthquake. You rushed outside immediately, trying to find Luna, ignoring the chandelier that was about to fall on you. Instinctively, I threw myself at you, pushing you out of the way. The chandelier crushed my left leg instead. You roughly pushed me aside and shouted, Rachel, you vile woman, even now you're trying to stop me from going to her, save Lulu. Get away from me. So, this is how he sees me. He thought I threw myself at him just to stop him from looking for Luna. He stormed out of the house, not even noticing me lying motionless on the ground. I was buried under the rubble for 3 days and 3 nights. By then, Cole had already found Luna and taken her to safety. The delayed rescue left me with a crippled left leg. Cole was convinced I was faking it. Even during an earthquake, you still find time to play games. Now you're pretending to be lame to get my sympathy? 3 months ago, on the anniversary of my dad's death, he mocked me right to my face. We argued and he grabbed me by the neck, tearing my clothes. You like me, don't you? No matter how I treat you, you still shamelessly cling to me. Rachel, how can you be so pathetic? That month, my period didn't come. I went to the hospital alone. When I was told I was pregnant, I felt a rare moment of joy. Joy that, in this world, I finally had someone who shared my blood. I was overjoyed and called Cole to tell him the news. He was furious. Rachel, if you're going to play tricks, at least use your brain. Do you think getting pregnant is that easy? What, am I some kind of miracle worker who gets you pregnant in one go? Cole looked like he had been struck by lightning. He sat down in a daze. How? How is this possible? It's not possible. That child. Where is that child? A police officer rushed in with a document. Captain Cole, the DNA results are in. You and the child share a blood relation. The officer hesitated, unable to continue. Cole's eyes turned red, and he stormed into the morgue like a madman. The child lay next to my lifeless body. I gently caressed the child. Baby, I'm sorry, Mommy couldn't protect you. Ignoring the stench, Cole reached out to touch us. Officer Leo and his team rushed in to stop him. Captain, calm down. Cole had lost all reason. His eyes were bloodshot like a wild beast. He fought Leo and the others, shouting, "That's my wife and child. Who the hell are you to stop me?" I froze. It was the first time Cole had ever called me his wife. But Cole, I'm not anymore. I'm dead. I thought my death would make Cole happy. After all, he had told me more than once to die and stay far away from him. So what was this now? Leo and the others subdued Cole, knocked him out, and dragged him to the hospital for a sedative. When he woke up, he seemed much calmer, as if his earlier breakdown had been just my imagination. Luna arrived and immediately threw herself into his arms. "Cole, are you okay? I was so worried about you." Cole softened his expression, tucking a stray strand of her hair behind her ear. "I'm fine. Why did you come? You're not in good health. Don't be so reckless next time." Luna naturally clung to his arm, playfully whining. No matter how trivial or silly her words were, Cole always responded patiently. When Leo walked in and saw the two of them, his expression turned strange. He cleared his throat. "Captain, we've made progress on the case." Cole returned to the precinct. His professional demeanor made it impossible to tell that the victim was his wife. I couldn't help but smile bitterly. This was the Cole I knew. My death should have only brought him relief and joy. Leo identified the suspects as a group of workers who had caused trouble in the past. It seemed to be a revenge killing. Back then, the workers at the construction site were waiting for their wages. These particular workers hadn't been paid, and their families suffered tragedies as a result. They hated Rachel's father, but since he was already dead, the case was hastily closed. It seemed they couldn't let it go and targeted me instead. "Wade had been lurking around your building a few months ago. He must have been scouting the area," Leo said. Cole seemed relieved. "I knew it. That incident was their family's fault. If they caused it, they should bear the consequences." He had found a convenient excuse for my death. Leo looked at him in disbelief. "Captain, that was your wife. She suffered unimaginable abuse before she died. At the very least, she was a victim. How can you say something like that?" Cole closed his eyes and said nothing. They finally identified the killer. I felt a sense of relief. This nightmare was coming to an end. Even while solving the case, Cole made time to visit Luna. Watching his retreating figure, bitterness welled up inside me. He could find time in his busy schedule to visit Luna, but he couldn't even spare a moment to check on me when I was alive. Luna playfully clung to Cole, coaxing him to share details about the case. "Is this one really that tricky? It's been so long and it's still not solved." She hesitated, then asked, "Have you identified the victim? Who was it?" Without hesitation, Cole replied, "It was Rachel." Luna's body stiffened, and the soup in her hand spilled. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes. Cole quickly grabbed a napkin to clean up. "You're such a klutz." Luna grabbed his hand. "How did she die? Was it really her?" Cole gently reassured her. "Don't worry, I won't let anything like that happen to you." He didn't notice the excitement in Luna's eyes. I wasn't surprised. I had been the obstacle between them, holding on to the title of Mrs. Cole for years, refusing to step aside. Now that I was gone, they could finally. True love finally found its way. Cole and his team had already pinpointed Wade's location, and they were closing in fast. What no one expected was that Wade stopped hiding. Boldly, he appeared outside Luna's apartment, disguised as a delivery man, and forced his way in, taking her hostage. Cole acted swiftly, arriving almost immediately after. "Let her go," he demanded. Wade's demeanor was off, dangerously unhinged. He pressed a knife against Luna's neck, his voice dripping with malice. "Captain Cole, you're quick on your feet. Too bad you weren't this quick the night your wife died. She even risked her life to call you, didn't she? Cole's expression darkened visibly. What did you just say? Wade sneered, his tone mocking. Oh, don't play dumb. You already know I killed her, don't you? That night when she was dying, she kept calling your name. Her will to live was something else. She held on for hours, just to reach you. But you hung up on her, didn't you? Do you know how hopeless she looked in that moment? I should thank you, really. If it weren't for you crushing her spirit, she might have resisted me for a few more hours. But after you hung up, she gave up completely. She didn't even fight back anymore, no matter what I did to her. Oh, and by the way, that's how your child was lost, too. As Wade's words spilled out, Cole's eyes turned bloodshot, veins bulging on his forehead. His face twisted in rage, and blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. You monster! I'll kill you! The horrifying scene from that night flashed vividly in my mind, shaking me to my core. My soul felt as if it were being torn apart, piece by piece, by a relentless demon. Pain surged through every fiber of my being, leaving no part unscathed. Wade used Luna as a shield, smirking with cruel amusement. If it weren't for this bitch, I wouldn't have been misled into targeting your wife. Isn't that funny, Captain? And yet, here you are, still protecting her. If your wife is watching from above, she must be turning in her grave. Wade's words threw Cole into disarray. He could no longer think straight. Like a furious lion, he lunged at Wade. Don't! I'm still in his hands! Luna screamed, her tear-streaked face evoking pity. Her cry jolted Cole back to his senses, and he froze in place. Wade whistled mockingly. This woman really knows how to play her cards. She's got you wrapped around her little finger, Captain. But do you even know what she's been hiding from you? Luna's legs trembled uncontrollably, her face pale with fear. Shut up. Who would believe the words of a murderer? Cole, I'm so scared. Please save me. Cole's hand, hidden behind his back, felt for his gun. Seizing the moment when Luna struggled fiercely, distracting Wade, Cole drew his weapon. Luna caught a glimpse of Cole's movement and, with a sharp twist, slammed her body into Wade. The impact threw Wade off balance, and the bullet that was meant for his shoulder pierced through his throat instead. Wade collapsed to the ground, blood gushing from his mouth, unable to speak. His body convulsed violently before going still. I noticed Luna crouched nearby, seemingly paralyzed with fear. But in the brief moment when she lowered her head, the corners of her lips curled into a faint smile. Darling, you just missed another chance to learn the truth. Cole carried Luna out of the apartment. Wade's body was taken away, and the case moved into its final stages. Sitting in his car, Cole flipped through Wade's personal file. Wade had been a construction worker. The unpaid wages he was owed had been his family's lifeline. Without that money, Wade's mother couldn't afford the surgery she desperately needed. Unwilling to burden her family, she took her own life. Wade's father, devastated by her death, soon followed. Wade's hatred turned toward Roger. But Roger had already passed away. So Wade redirected his fury toward me. After investigating, Wade discovered that the missing funds were tied to Lucas, Luna's father. At the time, Lucas had been in charge of the company's finances. Wade first approached Luna, asking about the incident. Luna told him that the money had been taken by my father and given to me. That revelation drove Wade to madness. One day, while I was out grocery shopping, he ambushed me, knocked me unconscious, and kidnapped me. For 5 hours he tortured me, slapping me, ripping out chunks of my hair, pouring concentrated acid on my skin, all while demanding to know where the money had gone and how much I had used. No matter how many times he asked, my answer never changed. My father was innocent, and the money had been taken by Lucas. It wasn't until after my death that Wade turned his suspicions back to Luna. He sought her out again. Records of their 2 encounters now lay before Cole on paper. Luna, now a suspect in the case, was brought in for questioning. Clinging tightly to Cole's hand, she pleaded, Cole, I really don't know anything. Why are you arresting me? For once, Cole didn't comfort her as he usually did. Do you really know nothing? Wade's final words had clearly shaken him. Luna remained tight-lipped, insisting she knew nothing. But without evidence, Cole had no choice but to release her when the time came. Luna stumbled out of the station, her face pale and her steps unsteady, nearly collapsing to the ground. Cole stood nearby, watching coldly. Luna, are you sure you had nothing to do with my wife's death? Something in Cole's words struck a nerve, despite her fragile, tearful demeanor. The words that came out of her mouth were laced with sarcasm. When she died, you even said that if she had to die, she should die far away, so she wouldn't dirty your sight. Cole's face turned ashen in an instant. His lips trembled in agony, and his eyelashes fluttered like the wings of a distressed butterfly. After Luna left, he slowly crouched down against the wall. His expression twisted in pain as he sobbed uncontrollably. I watched as Cole's tears fell in large, heavy drops, and I couldn't believe it. Was he crying because of me? No, that couldn't be. Why would he shed tears for me? After all, when I called him before I died, he had said it himself, get lost. Stop playing games. Don't tell me you're dying this time. Even if you are, die far away. Don't dirty my sight. Luna wasted no time buying a plane ticket to leave the country, but Cole caught her at the airport with his team. In the interrogation room, Luna's emotions erupted. What right do you have to arrest me? Cole, I know you're out there. Say something. Didn't you promise to take care of me for the rest of my life? Is this how you take care of me? I lowered my gaze to look at Cole. His eyes were filled with frost and hatred. Was it directed at Luna? Didn't he like her? Why would he look at her with such an expression? Leo knocked on the table. We found a large sum of money in your secondary bank account. Over the years, you've spent quite a bit of it, but the original amount matches the funds that went missing from your father's company back then. It was your father who planned to embezzle the money and flee, wasn't it? And it was Rachel's father who discovered it. Hearing Leo lay it all out, Luna stopped pretending. She sat on the chair and burst into laughter, clutching her stomach. No one knew how long she laughed before she started coughing violently. 3 years. It took you 3 years to figure this out. Useless trash. Cole, you're trash too. So what if you've caught me now? Can that bitch come back to life? Leo pressed on. Before Wade killed Rachel, he met with you. What did you say to him? Luna completely ignored Leo's question. She stared intently at the door. Cole, don't forget, her death is partly your fault too. You were the one who hung up on her when she called for help. You killed her. Wade, that idiot, was just like you. A few words from me, and he hated Rachel. I heard he was cruel to her, wasn't he? Ha ha ha. And your child with Rachel, he even... Before Luna could finish her sentence, the door to the interrogation room was slammed open. Cole moved swiftly, rushing to Luna and grabbing her by the throat. The force lifted her off the chair, her legs kicking frantically in the air. His grip was merciless, and Luna's face quickly turned red as she struggled for breath. Cole's eyes bulged, and his once handsome face was now dark and twisted. His eyes burned with hatred and fury. You vile woman! How dare you hurt my Ray like this? You're the one who deserves to die. It should have been you. Leo was horrified. Captain, let go. But Cole seemed deaf to the world around him. He only continued to curse Luna, his voice filled with rage. I watched everything unfold before me, a strange feeling stirring in my chest. Cole, what's the point of doing this now? Luna passed out, her body limp like a dead dog as Cole flung her to the ground. He gasped for air, like a dying fish on land. His hair was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, and his voice hoarse and bitter. Ray. Is that you? Are you speaking to me? Don't worry, I'll avenge you. She deserves to die. She's the one who should have died. I shook my head. Wait for me, I'll come find you. He looked in my direction, letting his tears fall freely. his face etched with pain. A gust of wind, seemingly from nowhere, carried my soul away. I gradually disappeared into the air. Goodbye, Cole,